Welcome you to today's webinar titled Transitioning from Subject Matter Expert to Organizational Catalyst. I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. She's an experienced entrepreneur who's been recognized as an influential local and national leader with over 25 years of experience in driving peak performance and personal growth through crisis and transitions. As a Six Sigma black belt and behavioral style expert, her leadership, speaking, and coaching style is dynamic, motivational, and impactful, and we're honored to welcome Hannah Bauer here today. Hannah, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much, Mike, and welcome everyone. It's truly my honor and pleasure to be here with you at this time. For those of you that are joining us Eastern time, noon, just about lunchtime, so I'm excited to be able to be here with you. And really, as we are going to be talking about this webinar on how to organize, how to be that organization's driver of effective change, really without spreading yourself thin, even if you have no current buy-in or leadership position. So for the next 45 minutes, hour, so we're get comfortable. We're going to be reviewing and overviewing various different business aspects in leadership. And of course, if you have somebody you would like to join in, this will be the right time. Anybody who may want to hear more about leadership, your boss maybe, just kidding. We are always happy to be able to share and learn more about leadership together. And if I haven't had the chance to meet with you before, like Mike said, my name is Hannah, and it has been my true pleasure to really be served as a facilitator here, part of the faculty of New Horizons with the Center of Leadership and Development. And for those of you that are joining us, I am here in Georgia, in Atlanta, where I get to reside with my 5 kids, a cat and a chinchilla, and somehow we all get along. It's a wonderful time that we have together. But really tell us where you're coming in from. We have over 30 million students that have been part of New Horizons. That's amazing, and that's really a great accomplishment for you in over 35 countries. So put it in the chat. We'd love to hear where you are coming and joining us from, and really get to share this time and collaborate as we will at the end through questions and answers. So without further delay, I will love to start with this statement, which really is from a catalyst that has probably impacted your life in many different ways. So go ahead and tell us where you're joining us from, and we'd love to field any questions and answers at the end in the next 45 minutes or so. So what catalyst? And really what we're talking about is change, and we talk about change and transformation. And who better to tell us about transformation, how our lives have been transformed really by some of the ideas it started by Steve Jobs, who really said was the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are usually the ones who do. And if you're joining us here today, you got to look at what a catalyst was, and we're looking at transformation. Think you may just be one of those crazy ones, or may have been confused by that before. So how do we get in that buy-in, and how do we get other people to join us? Well, let's take a look a little bit more at the excellent framework that we're going to be working through. And really is going from the subject matter expert. And again, it's been a privilege to be in the classes with you. I've gotten to learn so much from you, and so experienced in what you know, and really it inspires me to see how you continue to challenge yourself through the courses and through your questions and through what you're wanting to learn, and for being here today. So let's talk about a little bit more on what is a catalyst and what really is the difference between changes and transformation. What are we talking about when we say organizational transformation, as well as, well, going from the me to we, because there is no such thing as a catalyst by themselves. But one thing is for sure, change cannot wait. Actually, there's this one of my favorite quotes from Augustine of Hippo, who says, hope has 2 beautiful daughters. Their names are anger and courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to see that they do not remain the same. So when we're looking at catalyst, really, we're talking about yet another dimension of leadership. Leadership looking at the service. So where did this word come from? What is a catalyst? For those of you that took chemistry, it's been a little while for me, but chemistry tells us something really interesting. which is where the catalyst word has come from. And that is that it is a substance that causes or speeds up a chemical reaction. What I thought was so interesting about this was that it is not consumed by the reaction and it remains unchanged after it. I said, wow, what a painting even of that in leadership, where you are completely in the servant position and are able to help to create this change, where really in the catalyst what you're believing is that the parts together are stronger and make greater impact as a whole. And that really serves as the foundation for what we're talking about here in leadership. For those of you that follow even the agile way of incorporation in the business and being an agile organization, we even see there the whole role of the catalyst. And that begins from the expert to the achiever to the catalyst. So in the agile framework, the catalyst very much is the part where we are looking at how do we not only create a space, a place in the marketplace, but are really able to influence and innovate in the marketplace. In leadership, John Maxwell says that a catalyst is a person who creates positive change in their world through their ideas, actions, and influence. And really, that is what we're talking about here. Being with that leadership is truly, we're talking about influence. Really nothing more, nothing less. And realizing that everything does rise and fall on leadership. Now, do we have to have these positions, or what does it really qualify me? Am I even a catalyst? And really, all it takes is that self-leadership. When we talk about a person that has taken on the leader role or the catalyst role, it's just someone who has taken responsibility for changing what? Himself or herself first, and then takes action to help others change as well. So as we're talking about, well, what is self-lead? What's our question? Self-lead to what? Well, the self-lead in leadership, and again, we go a lot further into our courses when we're talking about transformational leadership, and we're talking about really the senior excellence as far as incorporating an alignment. What we're talking about here when we say a self-led person, a leader, is that person that challenges that cognitive dissonance. For those of you that are not sure, well, what is cognitive dissonance? It's like that word, dissonance, even worse, just not in harmony. It means that there's something that is not aligning. Cognitive meaning the mind. So someone who's self-led has challenged and it starts acknowledging the changes, the things that are not quite sounding right, and is seeking for that alignment. That seeking for alignment leads to that development. And that's what we call it, leadership and development, because we're constantly seeking for that alignment. And that balance with what? The balance to our commitments, to the things that we have said we're going to do, commitment to what? Our purpose, our passion, our gifts, being committed to growing them, being committed to creating that place, that atmosphere where not only our gift is able to bloom, but much more. When you're moving into leadership, is helping the gifts of others even bloom more. So when we're looking at the person, we're looking at that integration in self-leadership. Someone who has simply said, let me ask a question. Let me see, are my behaviors, characters, ideas, values, are they in alignment to the gifts, the purpose, the activities, the change that I know that I can bring and be a part of? So in an organization aspect, think of it like a house, okay? So to go a little bit further, when we're talking about cognitive dissonance, sometimes that deals with there's a lot of chaos. Maybe we don't have that clarity, or we really, gosh, I hadn't even thought about it. I don't know. So when we look at an organization, well, that happens too. In a house, in an organization, we can see it as, well, it's a place that has many rooms. There's a room where, although we want it to be called clarity, it might really start being called the room of confusion. And from that, well, we have a new renewal of where we want to see, okay, what are the skills? What are the courses, the plans, the blueprints that I need to develop so that I can continue to improve? which takes me on to reflection. So in an organization, you'll see there's places with different rooms. And even right now, you may start thinking, where's my team in that? A leader will help to see that. Will help to see, well, where are we right now in relation to our mission, our vision? Are we at the pit of paralysis? Are we at the cellar of despair where we think we've tried everything? We don't know what else to do. Or are we in the part of it, are we seeking clarity, or are we just confused? Or perhaps we're complacent and we think, we don't really need to worry about that. It's not affecting us. Except if you take a look in this picture on the outside forces, see there's a little thing like a lightning rod that's called trends that impact the harmony and balance. Remember I told you before, in the self, we're looking for that harmony, not the dissonance. And we're looking for that balance, not conflicting commitments. Same way in an organization. There's different trends. Changing economy, pandemic, shortages, supply lines being broken, upgraded technology. There's might be different trends, disruptors, right? New competitors, new players in the marketplace. Things that we had not thought about. So those trends impact the rooms that we are in, the rooms that our people in the organizations are in. That's where leadership steps in. It's when those trends are coming in and we have the places in the different rooms, that leader who will serve as that catalyst to start those conversations for collaboration starts helping between the clarity, the renewal, and the reflection. So as we're looking at what is the role of that catalyst in that organization, exactly that, those things that we seek for ourselves, as far as the integration and the balance with our outside, same thing. The organization is looking for the integration of what? The integration of the mission, of the vision to the daily activities that an organization is seeking to do. So we get feedback. We get feedback from our ecosystem, from the marketplace, from our customers, internal and external. And we are able to see, as we go further, where are the opportunities that we have to make that change, that transformation, not just for our organization, but in the marketplace, so that we're driving that change and we're driving that conversation. So where does the subject matter expert fit in all this? Well, you are at the start of the conversation, just like what we saw with Agile. The subject matter expert can tell, you forecast, you feel it, you know what those trends are coming. Perhaps you're experiencing yourself already. A new change in the platform, processes, systems, digitizing. What are the new requirements to be able to serve our customer a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? The subject matter expert is able to take the leadership skills and look and acknowledge these opportunities and looks for that evidence so that we can do what? Have those conversations about what is making us no longer optimal. Where I'm not coming from a place of opinion, I'm coming from a place of evidence. And because I'm a subject matter expert and someone who has raised a hand, hey, I want to be responsible and help lead this change as a leader, you're able then to take on other subject matter experts and to have those conversations. And that's where the catalyst comes in. That's where the transformation starts happening. You see, positive and effective change doesn't just happen on its own. When's the last time we saw anybody getting successful on their own? No. We know what things happen on their own when we don't take care of those things, right? Not usually the positive ones. Rarely do we see positive things just take their course. But it is strategic, it is measured, and it is constant. That, my friends, is what the role of the catalyst in leadership does. It doesn't wait for the opportunities to come to seize. A catalyst is striking and is striking and is striking and makes those opportunities happen. It starts those conversations and brings in some of those realities, some of those trends that are coming because you are the subject matter expert to be able to have those conversations. Actually, a famous subject matter expert that really changed the world was Dr. Norman Borlaug. What did he know? He knew plants. From Iowa, a farmer. All he did was get really, really, really good at his craft. But then he saw a need. A need for what? To eradicate world hunger. So he just continued doing what he did. He, an unsung hero. What many of us do, right? And we say, well, what difference is it what I'm doing daily making? Well, for Dr. Norman, the difference that it made is as years passed, not only was he able to help Mexico be able to meet the need for more grain so they can feed their people, but then he was able to impact India and be able to help with them and create also having greater harvest so they can feed their people as well. Well, it didn't just stop there. This subject matter expert, who what he did day in and day out was get better at learning and learning more about plants and solving a problem when recognized by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. They said that more than any other single person of this age, he has helped provide bread for a hungry world. That, my friends, is the opportunity you have as a subject matter expert that then takes on a problem that needs to be solved, that not only changes an organization, but can impact the world. That is what our businesses are seeking to do. Our organizations, our communities are crying out for that change. And you can be a part of it. Actually, you can lead it. Definitely you can. Sometimes you think, well, who am I? What position am I in? Well, let me remind you what another person said who also became a catalyst for change. And that is Miss Harriet Tubman, a very unlikely leader, definitely not in a position to do anything, right? Who's going to make a change, but oh boy, did she. Her story still rings to today. And this is what she had to say. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. Now, if you're saying, well, I don't have a position right now in leadership, after what Ms. Tubman did, we really have no room to talk. It really starts with a dream. And as we're going to get to see more, gathering people and communicating with people and getting better at what we do. So how do we exactly go from change to transformation, right? I mean, we change all the time. Every morning we begin with a change. Everything's changing, but what about transformation? Well, we're talking about that room of renewal, right? We're not just making change for change's sake, but we're talking about effective change. We look at the impact. We look at the small actions that need to be done today that will create that impact. What is the urgency? And the urgency meaning, is there that window of opportunity that I have to make that impact of change even greater? And go really from intentions to actions. We are great at having good intentions, but even the smallest action will outdo what the best of intentions does. And that is what we're talking about in getting to the mission and to the vision of the organization. How are you helping to have the impact of the mission and the vision in the organization go throughout the world? I recently had a class from, I had the privilege to serve Marines officers. And something that stuck to me so much was what their mission was. And that was to ready to fight tonight. Either they're getting ready or they're fighting. And after they fight, they get ready again. Ready to fight tonight. Everything that they did, and as we're going through the leadership class, is with that in mind. What do I need to do to make sure that when the troops happen to be released, they have exactly what they need? What's the preparation that I need today to make sure that when my time comes, when that urgency calls onto me, I am ready to meet the requirements for that action? Now, as we're talking about change and transformation, you really can't change if you can't measure it. In a business and in organizations, that's something that we look in all the time. Now, Mr. Drucker was a great philosopher and really somebody who impacted the business world so much with just being able to lead by objectives. Now, when he's talking about measurement, we were also talking about what are those key factors, right? In a business and organization, there are key factors, the things that really affect us in the income, in the people that we are able to attract, in the change that we're bringing to the world, in the need that we're feeling, right? Every business, every organization is helping to solve a problem. So what are those key factors that we look at? In an organization, we look at the cost, right? The overall, over time, what is the cost for us to be able to do this, to us to be able to provide this unit? What is the speed? So the cycle from the time the request is done to the delivery. Well, what are the defects? What is that over time and by type so that we can continue to do the continuous improvement? What are the defects? Because they definitely have an impact on our cost. And then the satisfaction by our employees internally, also the ones that are suppliers internally, and also the external, the customer. How is their satisfaction being measured, as well as the quantity? So as we're looking at transformational changes in an organization, we have to take a look at what the key factors are. What is the impact of these trends that are coming? A change of platform, a pandemic, a sudden stop in our supply line. What is going to be the impact to our key factors? Now, again, Mr. Drucker, who was very wise, said that the best way to predict the future, well, is to create it. Isn't that something, huh? Future by design. So can we predict what's going to happen tomorrow? No, right? We really think, okay, but can we? Can we design it? Can we have reliable, repeatable actions as an organization that we measure and be able to then forecast that and put it in alignment to our mission and vision? Well, actually, yes, we can. And that is really where the great job of the catalyst comes in. That's your window of opportunity. Is looking exactly at that. We have got to look at the future. We have got to be good at the forecasting of what is happening. Being left with the things that are going on, being able to forecast, we take a look at those key factors, where we're at, where we want to be, and where is it that we want to be? Well, what does our vision and our mission say? That will tell you where is it that we want to be. Now, the gap between where we are and where we want to be, perhaps really the actual outcomes and forecasted outcomes, well, that is going to tell you if there is a gap, or what we also call individually, remember I told you at the beginning, that cognitive dissonance. Did we hit the mark? Did we not hit the mark? Well, what happened? Was it something from the outside? Or was it something internal? Did something completely change in our world? So that is your opportunity. That is the catalyst banner that says, go. As a leader, this is where all those skills come in. This is where the analysis, the communication, the empathy, the compassion, these tools that you have been getting ready for. Remember, like I told you, like that getting ready to fight tonight, that ready, that preparedness. This gap is your deployment. This is it. This is where you, as a catalyst, you may be living it right now. You may be having to answer, why didn't we meet this? Why did we have to let go of a third of our workforce and we didn't know? Why did we miss this revenue? Why are we having to compete with a competitor that is now invisible that we didn't know? Why can't we find the talent that we need to be able to go to the next level? Why can't we attract the right talent or keep the right talent? That's the gap. That's where the catalyst works. And I tell you, we have to look at that as leaders, as catalysts, as subject matter experts, because the greatest danger really in our times is it's not the turbulence. It's not because suddenly this trend came in. But as Mr. Drucker said, it is acting with yesterday's logic to meet today's turbulence. That is the greatest danger. We must look into the future, being true to what our mission, our vision is, and be able to measure our key factors to that. We will see that with the trends. Now, I know we're discussing it briefly at this moment. There's a lot more that goes into this. But one thing to be aware as a subject matter expert, what are those key factors that are affecting you? As a catalyst, you may be living in that gap. That is your opportunity. That is where you're able to strike. That is where you're able to get the conversation going. Because change doesn't happen by accident. Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It requires somebody raising up their hand and taking on responsibility. So what this looks like in the future is, as far as forecasting and planning, well, you look at the forecast for the cost, speed, defect, satisfaction, and quantity, and you look at the actual outcome. For the subject matter experts, you should be able to see some areas immediately of what is happening there. Now, there's a lot of different formulas that can be used by this. There can be different measurements according to industry, but these are the 5 key factors that we're looking at. Again, the trends. As a subject matter expert, you are uniquely positioned to be able to see what are those trends that are going to affect you. And really, as we are becoming agile as an entire organization, is going from that expert to achiever to catalyst. This, again, is your opportunity. But you know what? A great changer also reminded us of this. Does it make it seem a little bit overwhelming? Wow, that's a lot to keep up with. Yes, it is. But as Mother Teresa said, I can do what you cannot. And you can do what I cannot. And together, we can do great things. Remember how I told you at the beginning, the catalyst, what do? They take the single parts and together they combine and they make something greater than them separately. That's exactly what's happening here. In her beautiful words, Mother Teresa described exactly the catalyst, because together we can do great things. In a business, what does this together look like? Well, there's different units. There's working units, right? You have administration, finance, HR, IT, procurement, engineering, R&D. But in that, you have the value stream map, where you have the inbound, the processes, the outbound, things that happen, the customer service, and marketing. So as we're looking at the business units, the whole, what is the whole? All of these things are happening. You belong somewhere here. Not only do you belong somewhere here, but your other peers, partners, internal customers belong to the unit. As a catalyst, Not only do you acknowledge and embrace where you're at as a unit, but you're able to start understanding how do these units work together? What is the value stream map for my company? Now, don't get scared. I just want to give you a preview of what we're talking about. What is this? It's that with every unit, with every business, there's a family of operations. So the units, we're talking about functions. What function do they serve? What is the value in their function? How does it affect me? How does it affect the business? And for this, as a catalyst, you start understanding, you start leading the conversations. Because where we're going to go next is how do we spread from the me to we? Because we know that the work doesn't start and end with you. You're responding to a request and you're delivering it to somebody else. You're handing off, right? So understanding the unit, how it affects the customers, and what is the value that you bring to the different units that you respond is going to help you not only in the work that you need to do in identifying the gap and being the catalyst and the leader, but really in having those conversations that are going to lead to not just a change, but transformation. So what are the conversations that we're talking about? Well, between each one of these units, you can see right here, there's smart conversations, there's feedback, there's requirements. And that's all really we're talking about. Do I understand the requirement from whoever requested this work, this output? And am I getting the feedback on, hey, did it work for you? Is there a way that this communication is happening? As a catalyst, really as a leader, someone who wants to see the mission happen, you're having smart conversations because you're talking about the growth, right? Remember, we went from expert to achiever and then to catalyst. So here, we're talking about the growth. We're talking about, yes, achieving, because yes, we need to do input, but really we're talking about the growth. But my growth is no longer just the only thing I'm looking at. Really, I'm looking at the growth of my family member, of my unit member, of the internal customers I'm serving. Now you take that on, it's gonna catch. You will be that catalyst. So what are the commitments to have this type of smart conversations? Well, it starts simply with a request. Are you willing to listen? Will you listen to the requirements? Importantly, will you listen to the feedback, to their instructions, to their requests? Will you have the empathy to really see, well, what is it that they're feeling? Why is it not working? Perhaps they're requesting something that like, okay, that makes no sense. Will you be willing to listen and ask questions so that we can resolve the issues, so we can start looking at the changing? Can we become that agile organization that we're looking to be? Can we become that answer to that problem we're telling the rest of the world we are through our mission? So that's the first thing. You start with being willing to listen to a request. And then there are the promises. Remember how I told you that you raise your hand, change starts with a person that takes responsibility? Well, here it is. Because not only are you listening, but you are willing to make that promise. Hey, I want to take a look at this and I'm going to come up with some suggestions. Well, we're going to work at it together. But you're saying not only are you asking to listen, but you will listen, you will do something that is going to take you to a place where you can be able to resolve this issue, create another process, or be able to help to improve a process. And then it's a declaration, right? That is your promise. That is what you're telling to the outside, to the units, with your mission, with your vision, with the objectives. And it really comes to the family of growth. Now, for those of you that have been to one of our leadership courses already, I'm sure you have seen this before as far as what a SMART goal is and a SMART measure. But for those of you that haven't done that, so you're not quite familiar with SMART is, it's very simple. Smart measures we're talking about here in smart conversations is you're having conversations not based on opinions only or what I think needs to be done, or basically I just have a conversation with myself, but I'm getting some sort of feedback and agreement. Okay, so when we're talking about smart conversations, we're talking about conversations that can be measured. So they're specific, meaning that they're concrete, they're detailed, they're well-defined, they're measurable, meaning that there's a quantitative. We know, okay, we're going from this to this to this. They're achievable, meaning that there's some sort of track record or capacity capabilities. We've taken a look at that and they're relevant. They're tied to delivering value. Relevant to what? Remember? Integration. Relevant to my mission, to my vision for the organization. Relevant to what it is, the gift that I bring to this organization. And they're time bound. That means they have a beginning and they have an end date. Now, like I said, we go a lot more further into this in our classes, but for those of you that want to look it up, you can look up smart conversations. They're widely used in business and very, very effective. So what am I saying? What is all this? Okay, so you have smart conversations, you have units, you have key factors. What are we doing with all this? Well, realizing that in order to be a catalyst, well, it doesn't mean that you are a hero. It does mean that you're a warrior. Remember, ready to fight tonight? You're ready to fight. You're either getting ready or you're fighting. Or you're getting ready or you're fighting. For what? For the mission and the vision. And Mr. Henry Whitlow, someone who's told me this, is like, you don't need to be a hero. You need to be a warrior. And your first weapon there, the key is listening. So when we're talking about the smart, with smart goals, smart conversations, smart measures, we're really talking about the feedback, the instructions, and the requirement between the leader and the family member. Family member meaning the unit, your business unit, your partners hand in hand, other subject matter experts, other people that are your internal customers, the department that asked you for an upgrade in their system, the delivery person that needed to have the address to make sure they deliver the right supplies, that family member. Another great leader that really talks to us as we are looking at what's going to bring us together. And as we look at catalysts, that sometimes what brings us together is not happy things, but they might be challenging, right? The gap. Nobody likes to be in a gap. Who wants to be there? We don't. And you can either react, which may be an immediate thing, or you can respond, which takes a lot more, but really you can initiate. Now that, my friends, takes some skill. So for those of you who may have heard of Mr. John F. Kennedy, he says this, to really let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring the problems which divide us. So when we're looking at problems, we're not just really like, blame, how could this be happening? No. We're talking about having the smart conversations, and we're talking about the key factors, and we're talking about alignment, and we're talking about integration and mission and vision. We're not doing that to divide or to blame or anything else, but we really are looking for those solutions so we can live to what we're telling the world we are through our mission and organizational vision. So let's not be looking at this to explore what divides us, but we're looking at problems because through those problems we are united. We are united. So as we are hitting here to a close, really, let's take a look at this. Cooperation says, let's just get along or else nothing will get done. But collaboration says, let's work together because this has to be done. Now that is how Catalyst talks. It has to be done. Ready to fight tonight. I am getting ready or I'm fighting. And what am I fighting for? For you, for me, for the innovation, if it's filling in an order, or if it's challenging myself understanding grains today, and who knows, years from now, it's going to lead me to solve a world hunger. No major person that has done a change set out themselves to, let me do this so that one day this will happen. No, they were faithful in the little steps. And they were faithful in teaching others and bringing others along. That's one of the greatest things, most significant things you can do as a catalyst. And that is to extend an invitation. Who's in your circle of influence? Who can you invite? If we're talking about other subject matter experts or other units, business units, who are you responding? Your internal customer, your external customer? Well, who listens when you talk? Who asks for your advice? Who respects your experience? Who follows your recommendations? Who seeks your opinions, right? Who enjoys working beside you and who advocates for you? Who values your time? Who do you add value to? See, that's your first line of defense. When you're talking again about being a catalyst, you're not going to do it alone. So this will be the first ones that you will come and invite to have that conversation. Have a smart conversation. Have that spirit of collaboration. You know what to do. You must team up. Yeah, and if you want to go fast, go at it alone. But if you want to go far, go at it together. That is an African proverb, and it rings true for us every day. As a catalyst, it's definitely not a one man or one woman job. As a catalyst, you're really impacting an entire organization. And through those faithful, repeatable, measurable, smart steps, you will be able to see and be that change that you so long to be a part of. So thank you so much, my friends, for joining us today. And really, it has been a true honor, and I look forward to fielding some more of your questions and really see you in an upcoming course. Now, you saw quite a few things that I've shared here, and we cannot go into detail, but there's definitely a business acumen class that you can take, a course through New Horizons. There's a whole series that will help you with the forecasting, with looking at the different value stream maps, but also in communication. One of the key things is communicating as a leader. So we have some amazing communication courses, facilitators, and people that can really help out and take you not only individually, but for your organization. So make sure that whoever invited you to this webinar, you get back in touch with them. And I know Kevin is gonna lead us more into getting to know how do we go about doing that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Hannah.
You're
If anyone
welcome.
has any questions, please do take a moment to type them into the questions box and we'll get to them shortly. And if anyone is interested in the materials presented in this webinar, or if you have questions regarding available course offerings, please contact your local New Horizons Center for further information. You can log on to newhorizons.com and do a zip code search to find the center nearest you. And our webinar schedule is also up to date on our website at www.newhorizons.com. Just click on the webinars link to view the full schedule and register for any upcoming sessions. And a friendly reminder that we will be sending out the recording link to today's webinar later today. So before we get into the questions, I did have a couple who typed in where they're from, but we didn't get to it in time. We had somebody here from Detroit, Michigan. Welcome. We have somebody from Pollock Pines, California, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So I want to welcome those folks for telling us where they are.
Yes.
And our first question is, what if the change I want to make is outside of my scope of work?
Well, yeah, that's one of the things. Thank you so much, Kevin, for bringing that up. You really have to look and evaluate, right? It goes back to the cognitive dissonance that we talked about the integral part, right? Outside of my scope of work, then you evaluate again your commitments. As we go talk about changes and transformation and really what is it that we want to do is is it really outside my scope of work, or what is your service? Are you serving certain things or not? One of my great mentors, Zig Ziglar, said that you can have everything you want if we help enough other people get what they want. Remember, smart conversations, key factors will really be able to tell you, as well as aligning those with what it is, the value that you bring there. And you'll realize that they change, and really, is there a scope? That's where you start getting in your team. And that's where you're able to leverage the strengths that you have along with the other strengths of your team members.
Wonderful. And what's the top thing we can do to prepare for a change in advance, to be ready for when it comes?
Communication. You must be getting that feedback. The top thing is constantly having that pulse, right? Just like we know, okay, what is it that the patient needs? You need to know where is the heartbeat, where you are in tune. You are able to know because there's certain things that you as a leader are already looking at. You don't need somebody to be telling you what is it that you need to be looking at. You know what things you need, the requirements you need in order to be able to do your job, your duty, the things that you have signed up for. So what is the top thing? It's in communicating with those that help with those key factors that allow you every day to be able to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish. So that's the number one thing. When there's a disruption in that, you're able to respond immediately to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Another question is, how can I encourage others on my team to develop a mindset that's open to change?
Ooh. Well, first of all, as example, right? In opening to change, right? Again, we can't just do change. Like right now, even people are just, I've had it with change. I actually want something to go back to normal. I actually want to have some sort of ground here. So when we're talking about change, we're really saying is, what is the transformation? What is the response that's being required of me? So this is the deal. Things are changing, right? Things that we don't want to change. We don't have to purposely go out there. I'm going to change something today. Change usually happens to us. It's from the morning. You get an email, you get a call, you get something, but it's really adopting that proactive and responsive and having those conversations and having that framework where with other people, as we're talking, we're able to put it in a common place, in a framework, so that when they see there's something not quite aligning, they're open to respond to those requirement changes, to those requests that are coming in. So with other people that are open-minded, of course, inspiration and motivation is a big one. And people say, well, motivation doesn't last. Well, neither do showers. That's why we recommend them to be done every day. So motivation is a continuous thing. We continuously add value, motivate your team, and have a safe framework so you can have those types of conversations.
Thank you, super valuable. This is kind of the other side of the same coin. There's a question that says, if I see a need, what can I do to get top leadership to buy in that the change is needed?
Right. So thank you for bringing that up. That comes with a lot. I mean, we realize that actually is a common question I get from my students, because they come in and they learn and they're excited about what they're learning and they see new ways. And of course, with knowledge also it opens up your mind. It opens up your point of view and like, wow, you're excited. You want to implement, if it's a mentorship program, if it's a coaching program, something in the business, and then, well, we won't have the budget for that, or we don't really need that right now, or that's not where our priorities are. So when you're talking to leadership, you need to speak to them from what they value, right? And here's where the whole alignment with the mission and the vision. The activities in a business have to align to the mission and the vision when talking to leadership, because they're responding. They have to respond to even the upper ups. Even the owner of a company has to respond to the client or stockholders or stakeholders or community social responsibility. So when talking to other leaders in the business that, let's say, call them higher ups, then what we're talking about is you have to have your conversations from, they have to come in from a place of what they value. And it has to be in accordance to the mission and the vision. It serves as a purpose. Now, as a subject matter expert, sometimes I become a bit technical, because the person that may be a supervisor may not completely understand the technicalities of it. Again, that's the opportunity. That's where the skills come in. That's where the communication, that's where the leadership skills are there to serve that leader make the best possible solution. So in talking with them, there have to be conversations of value on what is it that they value. And that's how you have those conversations, that feedback with the family member, they're conversations of value. In an organization, that is led by the mission, by the vision, and also they'll tell you what is it that they value, what is it that they care about. And that's how you're able to get that buy-in.
Great, great. I have another question. I really liked how you talked about teams and families. How do we encourage our teams and work family to focus on their home family to be even more effective at work?
Well, to how to focus on their whole family, you mean in, I guess, all the different units?
Their home family, I'm sorry.
Oh, their home family. So back at home.
Exactly.
That goes back to the culture, right? Culture outdoes everything at home, at business. It outdoes the greatest of intentions. So how do you do that with the family? Let me tell you, I got 5 kids and they're all going through a lot of changes, not only internally, right, with what's happening in their bodies and what the questions that they have, dreams, but also the changes that are happening from the outside. And that goes again back to the values. Having that common ground of what it is that we're doing as a family, talking about the goals, the objectives, and seeing where in the future, where do they want to be? And starting having those future conversations. As a family, a lot of times we just talk about what happened. Either they're getting a lecture, right? Because like, hey, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, or what happened to this, or what happened to that. It's making a habit, make it a culture change to where our conversations, going with that balance and harmony, are dealing more with the future. What does the future look like? Designing that future. How do I help you? How do I, even as a parent, child, and with other parts of the family unit, how do I help you get what you want? Because as a mom, there brings no greatest joy than helping them and see them achieve what they want. And then I can get what I want as well. And that is that reward, right? So how do you make that shift? Start talking more about the future-minded conversations. And that happens as a culture change at home and also at work.
And how do we get leadership bought into focusing on family and team cohesion, like you mentioned?
Well, that goes back to the same thing. One, invite them to this webinar. Have them say a coincidence. With the leadership, again, it's understanding. There has to be that the collaboration. There has to be that feedback. Again, just like a parent, at times we're talking so much about all this stuff. You have to understand. A lot of times, in the leader, I've been able to serve as a CEO and in not only CEO but owner and being in the board of directors and all this stuff. And sometimes you just come into the workplace and it's like all these fires that you're just trying to put out. And then you have to answer to the stakeholders, to the customers, to the direct line. So you have to understand that leaders too, they're under a lot of what being pressure imposed by themselves, imposed by the outside. So one thing to start with, and something that we've been asked about a lot, and I've been so happy to hear as part of the conversation, is empathy. Starting with empathy. And really, again, listening. You cannot go wrong with listening. Empathy, listening, compassion. Our leaders need that. They're very rarely do they get that because they're expected to solve the problems or have the answers. But starting coming in from a place of empathy, of collaboration, and of compassion really will take you a whole different way. And it's just not once. Consistent. Remember those small actions. Consistent and consistent, consistent. Nothing has been just changed like that overnight. Well, sometimes bad things happen, like it just so it seems like everything just crumbled, but that's not the case. Everything takes its course. There's time, there's building up, building that rapport with your leaders, being there, encourage your leaders. They need that encouragement, especially now. We're all navigating a lot of things that we haven't done before. It will coming from a place of empathy, compassion, collaboration, and value will really help you get that buy-in from your leader. Try it consistently.
Wonderful, wonderful. There was a follow-up question, but I think you just answered it, which is how do leaders encourage more of that so team members are in a better place to work? I think you addressed that with empathy.
Empathy, listening. Again, care about what they care about. People don't care what you know until they know how much you care about them. Not that you just care to know for the sake of knowing. They have to know you care about them. Right now, our world is crying for that. I mean, we see that, right, with all the different things and the groups and aggression, countries, and things. We are crying out. It is time for the leader to lead with that empathy, with that compassion, with that honest conversation of integrity, of really caring about what it is that my people care about. And that will take you a long ways. You build the people, people will build the business.
Wonderful. Well, we're almost out of time, but I have one last question. Are there any tools that you can recommend to help identify gaps?
Ooh, yeah, there's quite a few. And again, if we're talking about industry agnostic, lean principles are very good to help you identify between the cost, the outcomes, the lean principles being the Six Sigma. Again, that's one of my favorites. I might be a little biased with that, but that one's really good. Agile helps you really understand also what is going on, where is it that you want to be, and it takes you there step by step. The framework of excellence, if you're talking about messaging, things like the Blue Ocean helps you really when you are talking about market value and what is the value that you are communicating to your people. That's another one, Baldrige, which looks at every single unit, will help you identify those gaps, creating a profile for your entire organization. And really the balanced scorecard helps you to do objectives as well. Communication wise, you can have different like DISC, this one, different abilities to be able to see where your people are as far as recruiting talent as well. There's a lot of them. I would recommend calling your New Horizons people representative, and they'll really be able to help you with that. But thank you for asking. As leaders, we always have a belt, a tool belt, right? Things that we communication, but there's also something like a toolbox where there may be bigger tools, but then also we have a tool shed, right? So you don't bring them all at the same time, but what is good, again, getting ready to fight tonight, being ready, is you have them so that in time when it's needed, you're able to go into your belt, into your toolbox. So you need to go into the big one in the shed and take a look at what tools can I use, what methodology am I looking at incorporating.
Thank you so much. And of course, for those folks listening, if you're interested in Six Sigma, for example, New Horizons does have courses in that. As Hannah mentioned, you can reach out to your local center and we can help you with different leadership courses, project management courses, and so forth to help you. Well, that concludes the session. I want to thank you again, Hannah, and thank everybody for joining us. It was really a pleasure to hear from you. We really appreciate your insights.
Yeah, thank you. It was my pleasure.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.